All right. So the Department of State has announced that on June 17th, 2023, the non-immigrant visa application processing fee for visitors visas for business or tourism and other non-petition-based non-immigrant visas, such as student and exchange visitors visas, the F visa, the M visa, the J visas, all of those fees will increase from $160 to $185. That is as of June 17th. The fee for certain petition-based non-immigrant visas for temporary workers, the H, the L, the O, the P, the Q, they will all increase from $190 to $205. The fee for a treaty trader, treaty investor, and treaty applicants in a specialty occupation visa, that is the E3 visa, those will all increase. The E1, E2, E3 will all increase from $205 to $315. And non-immigrant visa fees paid prior to June 17th, 2023 will remain valid through the expiration date of that fee receipt. The department said the non-immigrant visa fees are set based on the actual cost of providing non-immigrant visa services and are determined after conducting a study of the cost of these services. The department uses the activity-based costing methodology to calculate, for those accountants out there, the ABC methodology, and the cost, and they figure out the cost of providing consular services, including visa services. The fees for most non-petition-based non-immigrant visas were last updated 2012. So last time they raised the fees was over a decade ago. And this rule will not change any other fees. And of course, fee information can be found on the Bureau of Consular Affairs website and on the website of every U.S. embassy and consulate. And I do also have to remind everybody, it has not been announced yet, but the Department of Homeland Security is going to raise immigration filing fees for adjustment of status and every application under the sun that exists. Adjustment fees, they say, are going to double. So based on what they put in the Federal Register, your adjustment right now is $1,760. If you get married, is going to go up to over $3,500. Now, that number may change, but we are expecting any day, any week, that the Department of Homeland Security is going to raise those fees. So for people who are married and thinking of putting their applications in, people who want to put in their citizenship applications, do yourself a favor. Do it now, because those fees are going to be going up in the next couple of weeks or month or two, for sure. We're just waiting for the shoe to drop. We just don't know when it's going to be. On June 9th, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services announced that certain individuals requesting parole based on urgent humanitarian reasons, like attending a court hearing, or for urgent medical care, you need this medical care immediately, or other significant benefit, you can now file this form, the I-131, for urgent medical care or to come to attend a urgent court hearing or for some other significant public benefit, and you need emergency travel. You can't wait for that tourist visa. You can't wait for an appointment at the U.S. Embassy. You can now file that form I-131 application for a travel document online. But you can only be eligible if you are basing it on an urgent humanitarian reason or a significant public benefit. And you have to be outside of the United States to be seeking this initial parole into the United States. And it does not include any of the family reunification parole programs that are already in existence for Cuba, Haiti, Filipino World War II veterans, and none of the parole programs that are currently in place for Nicaragua, Ukraine, Venezuela, and the other countries that have those particular parole programs. Now, the most important thing is everyone's getting excited. Wow, I can ask for an expedited travel document online. Yeah, but there's a filing fee you're going to pay of $545. And take note of this. If you are denied, you're not getting that $545 back. I said $545 because I forget filing fees, but actually I-131 is $575. So I take that back. It's $575. So you're going to say, wow, I'm going to apply for a travel document and expedite. What do I care? It's very rare that you would actually get it approved. You would need a good lawyer to do it. It better be for urgent humanitarian reason. And just note, if you get denied, you're going to lose that $575. So before everybody runs to the website to apply for their emergency travel document to come to the United States, think about it. Or speak to a lawyer first. 2 senior officials under the U.S. Department of Homeland Security are set to retire at the end of June. Tay Johnson, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement's acting chief, and Raul Ortiz, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection chief. Johnson joined ICE on January 13th, 2021, near the end of Donald Trump's administration. After multiple directors stepped down, the previous ICE acting chief, Jonathan Fahey, retired after the January 6th Capitol riot. Fahey had spent just 13 days on the job. And since 2017, get this, 9 acting ICE directors, what is that, 6 years, has been appointed and have stepped down, resigned, retired, or were dismissed. I think that's 9 in 6 years. Acting directors are appointed to temporarily fill a role before a president's nominee for the role receives Senate confirmation. And the reason why we keep getting acting instead of actual confirmation is because the Senate won't confirm any of these people because immigration is hotly contested. Now, 17 people have led ICE since the agency was formed in 2003. However, only 4 of them were actually confirmed by the Senate and all served under George W. Bush and Barack Obama. Everybody else has been acting, or so they speak. I probably are acting. In 2021, President Biden nominated Texas Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez to be the ICE director, but in June 2022, after the Senate failed to make progress on his nomination by voting for or against it, Gonzalez withdrew himself from consideration. The Department of Homeland Security has yet to announce who will be the next acting director. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas commended Tay Johnson for more than 31 years of service to ICE, the department, and the nation. U.S. Border Patrol Chief Raul Ortiz also served for more than 3 decades. He wrote a letter to Border Patrol employees in May about his decision to retire from federal service after 32 years at Border Patrol. He became chief of the agency in August 2021, even though he had already been planning to retire before then. And on June 9th, the Biden administration tapped Jason Owens, a 27-year veteran of the Border Patrol, to be its next chief. Owens currently leads the Border Patrol sector in Del Rio, Texas, which has emerged in recent years as the busiest part of the border. In a statement announcing the move, Mayorkas called Owens a talented, selfless, and inspiring leader. Owens took over as head of the Del Rio sector in late 2021, a few months after thousands of migrants, largely from Haiti, attempted to cross the border into Del Rio and found themselves confined in a camp on the banks of the Rio Grande. According to statistics released by the Department of Homeland Security on Tuesday, June 6th, unlawful entries along the southern border have decreased 70% from their record highs since the end of Title 42 on May 11th. U.S. Customs and Border Patrol has averaged 3,400 encounters in between ports of entry per day and fewer than 300 non-CBP one Office of Field Operations encounters at ports of entry per day, for a total of approximately 3,700 scheduled encounters per day, according to statistics. So we got 3,400 people who actually go through the fence, over the fence, under the fence, and another 300 people per day who just walk up to the border and say, I don't have an appointment, but I want to come in anyway. So that's the 3,700. Now, from May 12th to June 2nd, DHS has repatriated, get this, 38,400 non-citizens. In 3 weeks, Department of Homeland Security has deported at the border 38,400 non-citizens. These are people who did not get an opportunity to apply for asylum. These are people who did not get an opportunity to see a judge. They just got picked up by immigration and sent back to Mexico. This includes single adults, this includes families, and this includes more than people from 80 different countries. This includes over 1,400 non-citizens from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela who returned to Mexico under Title VIII. The first time in our bilateral history that the Mexican government has allowed the repatriation of non-Mexican nationals at the border under Title VIII. The top 3 nationalities encountered during that time period were, drum roll please, Mexicans, Hondurans, and Venezuelans, which collectively accounted for 70% of all the encounters per day, according to the Department of Homeland Security. The White House has applauded the decrease. White House Assistant Press Secretary Abdullah Hassan tweeted, "Political pundits and Republican lawmakers claimed we were unprepared for the end of Title 42. We proved them wrong." DHS said that CBP One app, which was rolled out by DHS as a hub, offering a variety of Customs and Border Patrol services, saw 1,070 non-citizens presented in a safe and orderly manner at a port of entry each day to be processed during their scheduled appointment time. Customs and Border Patrol has, as of June 1st, expanded the number of appointments available on the CBP app to 1,250 per day. But some Republicans have expressed skepticism of the Customs and Border Patrol One app, saying the app is a vehicle that would allow mass migration. Republicans on the House Committee on Homeland Security tweeted Monday, House Republicans voted to bar Department of Homeland Security from exploiting the app and restore it back to its original intent. Total CBP enforcement actions for fiscal year 2023 are 1,246,371 people per date. That means Customs and Border Patrol on the southern border has encountered and done something with a human being 1,246,371 times in the first January, February, March, April, May, first 5 months of the year. That's a lot of people. That is a lot of people. On Monday, June 5th, a federal appeals court ruled that the Biden administration still cannot implement certain immigration policies at the southern border, saying the Department of Homeland Security has not gone far enough to prove that they are warranted. The decision from the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Atlanta marks another policy win for the little runt in Florida we like to call Governor Ron DeSantis, who is spearheading the lawsuit through State Attorney General Ashley Moody as a protest to President Biden's handling of immigration. In denying a court stay seeking to allow Department of Homeland Security to release some asylum seekers into the United States on a parole basis with limited supervision as the legal battle continues, the appeals judge determined that the federal government failed to make their case, citing less action at the border than was originally forecast and a delay in appealing a prior court ruling. The appeals court stems from a 2021 lawsuit brought by Moody against the Biden administration targeting immigration policies put in place shortly after the president entered office. The challenge claims that federal authorities were ignoring a federal law that requires people entering the country illegally to be detained, and that undocumented migrants coming into Florida were costing the state. In March, U.S. District Judge T. Kent Wetherell ordered federal immigration authorities to revamp their parole plus alternatives to detention, known as parole plus ATD policies, slamming the Biden administration for what he called an unsustainable crisis on the nation's southern border. Wetherell was, of course, appointed by Donald Trump. The federal government has since been unable to enforce the immigration measures as Wetherell denied a court stay sought by the Biden administration in May before the case eventually headed to appeals court. The Biden administration on appeal pushed back against Wetherell's ruling, calling it harmful and alleging that it will lead to unsafe overcrowding at U.S. Customs and Border Protection facilities, while also undercutting the country's ability to process and remove migrants, creating very dangerous conditions for Border Patrol agents and migrants alike. But the judges have determined that recent data from the border casts further doubt on arguments from the federal government claiming the ruling is causing irreparable harm, noting that contrary to Department of Homeland Security's catastrophic predictions, encounters with aliens fell significantly after Title 42 expired. So Biden is being successful on the border, and as a result, he's losing in court. I'd like to see how this one plays out. I'm sure everybody's seen the migrants getting on the planes from Florida and Texas and flying to northern and states in California. Well, 2 planes arrived in Sacramento, California on Friday, June 2nd, and Monday, June 5th, each carrying asylum seekers, mostly from Colombia and Venezuela. California Attorney General Rob Bonta said that the individuals had been picked up in El Paso, Texas, taken to New Mexico, and then put on charter flights to California's capital of Sacramento. And he is now investigating whether any violations of criminal or civil law occurred. Now, this is where I find it gets interesting. In a tweet on Monday, California's Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom called his right-wing Republican Florida counterpart our friend, your friend. He's not either. We're not friends with him. Ron DeSantis. We called him a runt. Gavin Newsom called him a small, pathetic man and appeared to threaten kidnapping charges to a section of California's penal code stating anybody who abducts or takes by force or fraud a person found within the state is guilty of kidnapping. California Attorney General Bonta said in a statement that the 16 South Americans abandoned outside the Roman Catholic Diocese of Sacramento on Friday were in possession of documentation purporting to be from the state of Florida and may have been duped into boarding charter flights via New Mexico after entering the United States and Texas. On Monday morning, a second flight of 20 migrants arrived in the state's capital. Kim Nava, a Sacramento County spokesperson, said the arrivals remained at the airport for a couple of hours and were fed before being transported to a religious institution. The episode has parallels to what critics called a similar soulless stunt orchestrated by DeSantis last year, in which his administration abandoned several dozen mostly Venezuelan migrants in Martha's Vineyard, which is an island, summer vacation island off the coast of Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Bonta said Florida was guilty of state-sanctioned kidnapping. If it was found to be behind the flights, he told the New York Times the migrants showed documents to California authorities that indicated their travel had been administered by the Florida Division of Emergency Management, a contractor, Parole Systems Company. Parole Systems is the same contractor hired by Florida's Department of Emergency last year to move migrants from Texas to Massachusetts for $1.6 million. The flight was operated by Berry Aviation, an active U.S. defense contractor. Meanwhile, in Texas, after investigating the September 22 involuntary transportation of 49 migrants from San Antonio to Martha's Vineyard, Bexar County Sheriff Javier Salazar has recommended that criminal charges be filed in the case. And the Bexar County Sheriff's Office confirmed that the case has been filed with the county's district attorney's office for consideration. Now, what I find very interesting is this could very well be kidnapping or forced coercion into kidnapping under California penal law. Who would get charged with these crimes? Can a California charge a governor of another state? I don't know. I haven't really given any thought to that, but it was a good tweet by Governor Newsom. I don't know how that's going to play out. I just find it very interesting. On Wednesday, June 7th, New York Senator Charles Schumer and U.S. Representative Hakeem Jeffries said in a joint statement from New York City that they will receive $104.6 million in federal funds to help cover the cost of providing services to asylum seekers. More than 72,000 migrants have passed through the city since last spring, with more than 44,000 still in the city's care. The money is second round given from the Federal Emergency Management Agency and sharply contradicts expectations from top officials in the administration of New York City Mayor Eric Adams about how much the city would be receiving. In early May, the Department of Homeland Security, which includes FEMA, announced a $332.5 million allocation that largely went to communities on the southern border. New York City only received $30 million. The city's $104 million allocation that was now received through the new Federal Shelter and Services Program constitutes about 30% of the money announced Wednesday and is much larger than payments to other cities. The second largest payments were going to San Diego, which received $15 million, and Chicago, which received $10 million. On Sunday afternoon, Mayor Eric Adams announced that app-based food delivery workers in New York City will earn $17.96 an hour before tips beginning July 12th. an amount that takes into account their costs of operating. And with this rate, New York will become the first major United States city to establish and implement pay requirements for delivery workers in the gig economy. The hourly rate will increase to $19.96 before tips by April 1st, 2025. The standard is a significant increase from the estimated $11 hourly workers currently earn after tips. And New York City estimates the number of gig delivery food workers at 65,000. A lot of these delivery workers who are working as independent contractors are immigrants or undocumented immigrants, because why would an undocumented immigrant want to do this job? Well, you got to find money somewhere. But also, if you're working as an independent contractor under the law, nobody has to check your documents to see if you're legal to work. That's why you find a lot of undocumented immigrants delivering food around the entire city of New York and many cities. And guess what? Now in New York City, those workers are now going to get $19.96 by April 1st, 2025. And that sounds great for the workers. People getting the food, they're going to pay more. So if you're ordering food, you're going to pay more because your delivery worker is going to be making more than $8 an hour more now. Now, obviously, there are no reliable statistics on the number of app workers, but estimates do put the number of immigrants working in the delivery services through an app at tens of thousands. And app-based delivery workers are classified, as I said, as independent contractors and not employees. So they are not currently entitled to a minimum wage. Now, Mayor Adams is making them have a minimum wage of $19.96 an hour. And because they are independent contractors, many immigrants are attracted to that job because no documents are required to prove you're legal to work as an independent contractor. And on Wednesday in New York City, the atmosphere changed to a reddish tone. I'm sure people saw it in the papers and on the news. We thought, people here in New York City thought it was the end of the world. And it was a byproduct of the 400 or so fires burning hundreds of miles away in Canada. And the Federal Aviation Administration even grounded flights at many of New York City's airports, including LaGuardia. Now, the air quality index in the city spiked to a record-setting 484 Wednesday. When I left work Wednesday evening, I tasted the soot from the fire in my mouth. And that made Wednesday evening New York City's air the most polluted air of anywhere in the world. But you want to know who was working outside that whole day and evening? Delivery trucks, motorcycles, and bikes, continuing to deliver food to hungry New Yorkers throughout the entire city. And with New Yorkers cautioned to stay inside, these food delivery workers reprised their pandemic role. Ligia Gualapa, executive director of Workers' Justice Project, said, in times like these, it's really low-paid workers who become our city's first responders, without a minimum pay, without safety protections. So congratulations to the delivery workers. Maybe you didn't get any safety protections, but at least now you will get a minimum wage. On Wednesday, June 7th, a judicial nominee from Michigan moved members of the Senate Judiciary Committee with her immigration story, sharing how she was adopted and raised by a single mother in the United States after being left on the steps of a hospital in Seoul, South Korea as an infant. Attorney Susan DeClercq, a former federal prosecutor from Northville, was nominated by President Biden last month to serve on the federal bench in the Eastern District of Michigan. DeClercq told the panel, I'm very proud of being an immigrant. I've always been very aware of how different my life would have been had that not happened, and the incredible opportunities that this country, the United States of America, has given to me. And so I've spent most of my professional career in public service. I deeply appreciate not only the country, but the government, which was why I joined the Department of Justice. And for me, it's always been about equality and justice. And I think that is part of the immigrant experience. If confirmed, the clerk would be the first federal judge of East Asian descent in Michigan. Committee Chairman Dick Durbin, an Illinois Democrat, called the clerk's life story amazing. Durbin told the clerk, to be abandoned as a child and to be part of a family of adoption that made the difference in your life and brought you to this moment in history. So we congratulate the judicial nominee from Michigan, originally from Seoul, South Korea, Attorney Susan DeClercq.
Thanks for watching. For more Bradshaw Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.